This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. And welcome everybody to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. Here I am sitting with the current record holder for holding my attention. 4 hours, Espen Jørgensen. 4 hours we talked back in the summer.
Yeah, we did. Hi, John.
Hi. Man, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I think I've said that about 20 times since you walked in the door. You're the first person to be here live in my home for an episode since. Now I'm trying to remember when she was here. That was before Christmas. That was in November, maybe.
You're talking about Carolina.
Yeah, about Carolina. Yeah. I want to say that was in November. Yeah. People can look and find that episode, but it's been a few months. It's been about 3 months since I've had. So to actually look into someone's eyes and have a meaningful conversation. Now, I've done that with my wife. We talk about deep stuff every day, but I have really been looking forward to having you here. So thank you for coming. And for everybody that's listening, this is safe. We have some social distance here, and the rules have changed here in this town about having visitors in one's home and whatnot. So we're doing this safe, and we're gonna come out of it healthier than we went into it. Hopefully. Yeah, man. You put out. Let me start with this. You put out from time to time these. I call them meditative musical moments. Triple M. You put out these fantastic videos on your social media. It's you. It's a guitar. It sounds like some sort of pad undertone with an organ. And how often do you do that and not put it out?
Good question. Almost never, because I hardly ever do those videos.
Okay.
So every time you see one, that was just a moment I had.
That was the moment that you had.
Yeah.
It's not like a routine you do where you practice by doing that. It's just...
that comes so hard for me because I tend to lose the intention that I hold most valuable.
Okay.
In having that becoming a routine. I like that moment of magic where you feel like, whoa, the energy now is different. And when I get that feeling, I've come to the point now where I'm able to just capture that moment. And even that was hard. Took me many years to remember to push the red button, the record button. Yeah. But now that's a routine. So I'm thankful for that routine, that every time I recognize a moment, I'm able to capture it.
For people who are musicians, songwriters, lyricists, we know what you mean by that feeling, that moment that presents itself. I feel that very much when it comes to songwriting. Another artist can give me a piece of music where they want lyrics, and I always ask them, please don't give me a timestamp. Don't say it has to be done by this date, because that pressure of having to deliver, of having to flip on that switch, on command, it doesn't really work that way. For me, creating lyrics, creating music is always this inspirational thing. It just all of a sudden falls upon me. Is that kind of where you're coming from then with those moments?
And I'm sure that a lot of people will argue that, well, you have to get up and just work. And a lot of artists that I admire deeply work like that. Get up in the morning, go to their office and just write 20 songs a day. And at the end of the month, perhaps you have one or two that you'll keep, and I'm really just in awe over people who are able to work like that.
I look at guys like, I don't know if you're familiar with Rick Beato. He's got wonderful YouTube channel. I recommend everybody go check out Rick Beato on YouTube. If you just want to get into music history, if you want to get into music theory, if you want to get into some of his stories about the inner workings of the music business, great YouTube channel. But he, from the moment he wakes up until he, cuts himself off and goes and does family things, it's all music all day long, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And I admire that.
Yeah, I think it's really, really admirable.
Some people can do that.
Some people can do that, and we all have our own path, and there's no right or wrong. Basically,
No.
as long as you get your voice across, as long as your voice is heard, there's no right or wrong.
That's true. But having said that, I will put on top of that I do wish I had a better grasp of music theory. That's what brought me to Rick Beato. I heard about him. Maybe I ran across one of his videos at random where he was talking about music theory. I don't understand music. Well, I don't want to say I don't understand music theory. I don't have a... it's like I can speak Spanish, but if I were to try and explain the grammar and the sentence structure and all that stuff, I couldn't do that. And it's kind of like that with music. I can pick up a guitar, or I can sit at the piano, I can write something, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what a B minor seventh chord is. I don't know what that is.
You don't have to.
Well, am I missing something? How are you with music theory?
Well, you don't have to know music theory for starters. I mean, the Beatles and Bob Dylan are great examples.
Well, that's a great example.
That just people working out of intuition.
Yeah.
Like Dylan said that when he was at the height of his creative, or at his creative peak, he was almost like in a parallel universe, and he didn't understand what he wrote.
Yeah,
he didn't feel like he wrote it. Even he felt like it was he was channeling, and he probably was.
Neil Young has said things like that about his way of working.
Yeah.
So. But see, you also have, like Paul. Let's take Paul McCartney. He's written some very beautiful melodies, and when you break it down, there's some very complex musical theory in there.
That's the thing.
And I'm thinking, if you knew that musical theory, wouldn't that enhance your songwriting prowess? Wouldn't you then be able to channel that knowledge into your moments of inspiration?
Well, in a way, of course, knowledge can almost never be, you can't get too much knowledge, but then again, you can get caught up in the knowledge. And,
that's right.
And you don't want to be caught up in that knowledge. You want to be just channeling whatever comes through you.
Yeah.
And you can't use your brain for that.
No, well, it's like
or
you
your
said.
Mind.
Yeah, like you said, you don't plan these videos that you put up on your social media. It just happens.
It's impossible to plan.
And there's the beauty of it. That spontaneity is just.
So that's why you have to live in a certain way that makes the soil ripe or ready for those moments to rise.
Because if you've spent your entire day worrying about paying bills, if you've argued with people on social media, if you've got a bad relationship at home, how is it possible for those musical moments of inspiration to hit you? It doesn't happen. A lot of people say, well, you've got to live the blues to write the blues.
Well, not at the same time often.
Yeah, it's okay to write the blues in a documentary way. You're documenting something that has happened to you. But I believe, for me anyway, if I'm right in the middle of moments of chaos, I am so far away from any musical moment that I could possibly be. Yeah. I write from periods of peace, periods of inspiration, and peace is what opens the door for those inspirations. That's the way it hits me anyway.
So for me, to answer your question, for me, music theory right now, I'm back at the school bench in my own house.
Yeah,
but
you were saying,
because I like to study composers every now and then, and for me, that's my way of studying music theory. So instead of sitting there with a theory book, which is really dry and really unmusical and 100% theoretical, which kind of kills me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I dropped out of a music theory class in college. I was taking this class and it was just so dry and boring, and I'm like, I can't do this.
So instead, I study composers.
Yeah,
and
you listen. In other words,
I listen, I transcribe, and I study sheet music. But the process that kind of makes the theory stick in me is when I transcribe works.
Okay.
Yeah, so I sit and listen, and I figure out what notes are those, and I write them down. Okay. And I transcribe works, and I will, of course, pick works that I love. that I don't mind listening to again and again and again.
We're talking jazz. We're talking classical.
Well, we're talking any style, basically. Okay. But right now I'm working with Ralph Towner, which is one of my favorite composers. He plays piano and guitar, but mostly guitar. And I love his music. And he's a studied guy, comes from a jazz classical guitar background. And studying his music is just opening up my mind to note relationships. So here's the thing. I don't think you have to know the names, but when you have an intuitive grasp of the relationships between the notes,
right,
that's when you can be able to just paint on command.
I'm playing this chord. It's natural to go to that chord, to go to that. Yeah.
But you have to assimilate that knowledge. You can't be sitting there going, oh, it would be smart.
Yeah, you kind of have to know
play this chord now.
But that's where the studying comes in. It imprints that into your musical brain so that when
muscular memory.
Yes. So that when you're in that creative moment, you don't even have to think about it.
You can't think about it because then it won't have any value.
Let me ask you about your again, these videos that you're putting up. I'm going to put a link to this so people can see it. I think it's beautiful when you do this. It's such a meditative moment, 3-4 minutes of peace. I love it. But when you're doing this, talk about your signal chain, because it's not just you and a guitar. We hear a pad of some sort of synthesizer keyboard thing underneath. What are you doing there?
Well, I really love expanded sounds. I'm really fond of the pure acoustic guitar sound, but I'm also a huge Brian Eno, Daniel Lanois fan, and I love those just manipulating sounds. And what happens if I put the sound through this thing?
Yeah.
But the rig I have now, which I've worked on for years to get the way I wanted it, is a really nice way to have control over both. So I have a signal chain, which my pure guitar acoustic signal is a two-way signal. It's a magnetic pickup in the sound hole that captures the sound of the strings, just like an electric guitar pickup would. So you have really, really control. No ambience, no very few harmonics. It's just very clean, straight sound from the pickup. And then I have transducer from Erlen mics in Sweden that I just stick to the top of the guitar.
Okay.
And that captures all the transients and the overtones and the acoustic liveliness of the sound. So I combine those two into a Lexicon reverb and through my Schertler acoustic amp. And that's kind of my main acoustic guitar sound. But the magnetic pickup is split in two.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's split in three.
Oh, but now we're getting complex.
Yeah. And I have volume pedals to just,
so you can get that sound swell.
Get in different chains. And those chains consists of a Mellotron box and various reverbs and some Mooger-Foogers and some old,
So is it because you have this stereo split on that mic going into different reverb lengths? Is that what gives it that wonderful pad-like, almost like a keyboard-like sound underneath? Is that what that is?
Oh, yeah. That in addition to that signal that creates that pad thing is there's no pure guitar signal. It's the Mellotron. It's a Electro-Harmonix Mel 9. It's called. It's a box that simulates the old Mellotron. Remember that first sampling synth kind of thing from the Beatles Strawberry Fields.
Strawberry Fields. Yeah.
People will know that sound and that's turned on 100% effect and 0% direct. So it's just the effect. So
interesting.
So when I play that and I put it on choir, for instance, you just hear
and there it is.
A choir.
There it is. Yeah.
And then I put that sound into Mary's Mercury 7, which is an amazing reverb pedal inspired by the movie Blade Runner. And I love products like that are made by enthusiasts and that have a direct kind of inspiration like this, like the Blade Runner movie,
Right.
which is maybe my all-time favorite film. And so then I have kind of, and I have a drone signal as well, which goes through some vintage Moog stuff and some Chase Bliss audio pedals. So I have 3 signals, and they're not stereo; they're 3 mono signals.
3 mono signals.
That I can kind of that can wane and wax into the sound, and I can just make this continuous landscape. Because what inspires me to what kind of sets my spark, if you will, is when there's a new sound into the field. So I like to have pedals, like the Chase Bliss pedals are doing this really, really great, is to give me random sounds that are
you don't
hard
even know
to
what to
anticipate.
Yeah.
Because that kind of triggers my creativity. When, oh, that was nice. And then you get this synchronicity and serendipitous kind of moments.
It fascinates me because there's so many elements. You know, like I said, to start off this part of the conversation, it's more than just you and an acoustic guitar. It's you and all of these other elements, and you are. It seems like it could very easily become chaotic, and yet you're sitting there. You're so calm, and it's far from chaotic. It's just, like I said, it's a moment. It's 3 or 4 minutes of absolute peace.
Well, it's because it's 20 years in
20
work.
years of practice.
Of kind of cultivating that frame of mind to controlling that thing.
Yeah.
I took a choice way back when loop pedals came onto the market. And I went out and bought a Boomerang, one of the first like high-end loopers. And I worked with it a bit, and I could see that, I can see where this is going.
Yeah.
And I made a conscious choice to just take it out of the equation again. So I have 2 dogmas. It's that all the sounds that I create must come initially from my acoustic guitar. So I don't have any external sound signal. It's all guitar.
All there.
Although it's manipulated and tweaked, so it sounds like something else, like a choir.
But its origin is the guitar.
Origin is guitar. That's one of my dogmas.
Yeah.
And the other one is no loop pedals.
No loop pedals.
Just because I knew that it was going to take over the world. And it did. And you got, Ed Sheeran and all those guys doing their thing. And
they do it well. But
it's not that. It's just that I knew that I wanted to go a different path and give myself different challenges than just stacking loops on top of each other. Because I like fresh things. I like that things are fresh, and every moment is fresh. Every nanosecond is a new nanosecond. And I like to kind of, for me, my spirituality and my spiritual life is very, very much translated through my music. It's inseparable, actually. My music is my spiritual practice.
Yeah.
If you will. So that's why these things are important. And I'm not just kind of like approaching it like a workman or like a utility thing. No,
Right.
It's how you use it and everything, because that's a good argument. A loop pedal is great. It's just only how you use it. But for me, it's a spiritual thing. So for me to take the loop pedal out of the equation limits me in a way, and then I have to get creative in a different way.
There you go.
And that excites me. So that's the way I do it.
Do you have anything in the works now as far as an upcoming release?
I have.
I would, as a fan. Can I call myself a fan? As a friend who enjoys your music, I would love to have an album made by you that is just a series. Maybe it doesn't even have to have a break. Just one long 35, 40-minute series of things like what you put up on social media. I don't think I'm the only person who would enjoy something like that. I mean, it really is beautiful work. It really is beautiful work.
Thank you, man. And I'm working on a album like that as
Are
we
you?
speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And although I've worked on long form music, I started out like at the end of the 2000s. I made some stuff that were like 30 minutes long and 40 minutes long. And while that's all well and good, I'm at a place now where I'd rather make like pop song length, a little places that people can go, but that have a really, really strong connection with each other. So
I see.
So when you play the record, it's not a lot of long songs or a few long songs. It's just like listening to a rock record or a pop record, but it's a journey. A
series of statements that are connected.
And
telling a story.
Exactly, telling a story. Because I was thinking about it this morning when I made breakfast for my son, and I put on a record from 1973 by Nicky Hopkins. He's the guy who played piano for the Stones back in that time, and he made a solo album in between, like the peak of all the work they did and his career, which kind of peaked around that time. And he played with all the badasses,
Yeah.
So that solo record by Nicky Hopkins called "The Tin Man Was a Dreamer," which is a great title.
That is. They get through.
It's just, George Harrison plays slide guitar on every track, and it's just all the, great guys from that period, that are helping him, making this record. So it's a great record. But my point is that it has this cinematic. You find this in a lot of Rick Wakeman's solo work as well, which
brilliant musician, by the way.
And for me, it was kind of what set me on my path. Were like the records, the myths and legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and Journey to the Center of the Earth, and Goodbye Elbick Road by Elton John, and these epic records that kind of you just lose yourself in.
Yeah.
And when you come out, it's like you've been watching a movie or read a novel or something.
You feel you have a feel. It puts you in a place.
Yeah, it's more than just listening to a good song.
Yes.
It puts you in a place of adventure.
Yes.
So that's what inspires me most, and that's what I'm striving to kind of manifest those kind of things.
We think a lot alike in that sense. That's the kind of music that inspires me the most. My wife and I watched a documentary. I believe it's just called Laurel Canyon. It's about Laurel Canyon.
Have
you seen it?
Yeah.
By the way, the photographer who is featured all throughout that, I'm trying very hard to get him on my podcast.
Get him, man.
It's just a beautiful image to think about all of these epic musicians literally living on top of each other, and you could walk down the street and another top musician is there working on something, and they welcome you in, and all of a sudden you're part of someone else. This communal sense of we're supporting each other's music.
The quote from Glenn Frey is so amazing because he shared a flat with Jackson Browne at one point.
Yes.
And he said that I learned how to write music by lying in my bed listening to Jackson creating in the first floor. So he's just lying there, and because Jackson was on it all the time, just up in the morning. He was one of those guys, just got up, got his coffee, and sat down and wrote songs all day, every day. That's what he did.
Imagine being in that environment.
And Glenn Frey is lying in his bed in the second floor, just taking notes and listening. He's doing it like that. Oh, clever, and just soaking it up. And imagine being in an environment like that.
What happened? Why is there no environment like that? And I'm thinking of Norway specifically. It's such a small country here. People in the music business are more similar than they are different. Where is that sense of communal support? Where is that sense of common struggle? It seems like it's every man for themselves, or maybe this is just my experience. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Hold on. Let me analyze myself a little bit. But
I think.
Where's Norway's Laurel Canyon?
Well, we're not a big enough country.
Yeah, but I would think that would.
My answer to that.
Yeah, I would think that would be the reason why there would be more of a sense of togetherness.
There is a sense of togetherness, but you have to keep in mind that when you have such a great, vast area of land like the United States is, and all of a sudden talents from England, but from very many different states go, I want to go out to California. Yeah. And so all of a sudden you have these hundreds of people that don't know of each other. And they all of a sudden meet in this tiny little place called Hollywood, which is a tiny little town. Yeah. It's just a town.
Yeah.
And then you got all the best talent from Wisconsin and from Texas and from Oklahoma and whatever, you know.
Couple of British guys.
All these people congregate at this tiny little place called Hollywood, and even at the same club called the Rainbow Bar and Grill. Yeah. That's where they meet.
Yeah.
And they go, whoa. And then all of a sudden you have all these talent at this tiny little space. And then it has to combust, it has to just explode into a creative.
Maybe it's just not able to be duplicated, regardless of whether it's in Norway or back in the United States. That's just a time that's gone by. Maybe that'll never.
It is a time that has gone by. It will never come back. And I don't believe in duplicating things. I believe in being in the moment and seeing what the moment is telling you. Always. Yeah. So if you're not living in a place where you have Joni Mitchells and Bob Dylans and Crosby, Stills and Nashes and Neil Youngs around you, and Jackson Browns and Glenn Frey's and Don Henleys and whatnot. See what happens when I list all these things. Your mind just go. And if you don't have an environment like that, you have to find your inspiration somewhere else. And that the great thing is that the creative force, this is my belief, that the creativity is the driving force in the universe. So the universe exists for being creative. It's kind of the closest I've come to analyzing why the hell we're here, and that means that I can be creative wherever I am. I just have to open up to it and not limit myself by thinking, oh, I would have written a song if I'd only had this guitar, or if I'd only had this buddy here, or if I'd only had a bear, or if I'd only had, whatever.
Yeah.
You can make up excuses till the cows come home. At the end of the day, you don't need anything but connect to source and connect to the divine, eternal, and to which is pure love and creativity. And there you go, and then create.
It really is that simple. It really is that simple. What is it that gets in the way of that? Why isn't everyone thinking
ideas, thoughts about how things should be?
Well, they should be.
Looking at, oh, he did like that. Maybe I need this plug-in too. Because
and as soon as someone thinks of how things should be, now they've taken themselves out of the moment. They're no longer in the now.
No, you're no longer in the now. You're thinking, you're analyzing. You're living in your head totally. Only your heart is excluded from the equation. You basically have three brains, and people will know this, even though it's controversial perhaps to say. You have your brain, you have your heart, and your stomach. And those three are kind of your guiding lights. And sometimes it's smart to use your brain. Sometimes it's smart to listen to your gut instinct. And sometimes your heart will tell you, oh, you got to go and do that. But most of the time, it's a combination of all three, You
don't think anyone is dominant? Do you think those three areas of consciousness, if we can call it that, are equal?
There's no hierarchy in your body.
The heart should not surpass the head.
Well, think about it. What's more important, your heart or your brain?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer.
Well, they're equal, aren't they?
Exactly.
So you can't put those things in a hierarchy. You just have to accept that you're part of a system. You live in a vessel, which is your body, which is a system that you have to operate like an engineer.
Yeah.
And that means, even though engineers are considered to be very low on spirituality, forgive me, engineers out there, I love you guys, but that's a common kind of myth, and I think that it's not like that. I think that when you live in this amazing thing called the human body, and learning to navigate it, learning how it works is kind of the meaning of life, basically, because it's a lot of fun to see, wow, what I think, how I perceive the outside world, or is kind of what is created.
Yeah.
So it's all in my power to just create the world around me by the way I conduct myself in the world. And that's kind of like a flower. Understanding what I just said is kind of like a flower that opens more and more and more. If you dwell and meditate on that conundrum, it will just open more and more. And more you will see that,
Do you set aside time every day to just clear a meditative moment? Do you set aside time?
Yeah.
How much time do you use on that?
It varies tremendously. Like today, I set aside 15 minutes before I left just to align myself, because it's typical me. I'm getting up early today to come and see you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So I sit up late analyzing Ralph Towner's music like until 2 o'clock, and that's typical me. Yeah. Whenever I have an appointment in the morning, I can't get my ass to bed. But when I have nothing on the schedule, I tend to go to bed at 9:30. So that's some self-destructive kind of a thing that I've just embraced and learned to love. And I knew this for days, that when you first called me, that I knew that, okay, I'm going to be tired then. So I'll just start to prime myself and focus myself. And I know I'm going to get through it, even though I had a couple of hours sleep, too little sleep. But no, it's just being relaxing into the moment every time.
Yeah. Regardless of the situation.
Regardless of the situation, regardless of anything, don't expect anything. Don't expect that something's going to come out of it, other than, I knew that probably I was going to get a good cup of tea. And I knew that I was going to meet up with you, which is always a heartfelt thing. So that's all but even that's assuming,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Maybe you.
I might be an asshole today.
No, but maybe 5 minutes before I come, maybe you slipped and fell and you had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
We never know. Maybe I slipped and fell. Maybe I got run over by a car. You never know.
Yeah.
So
it's all about living in the now.
All about.
There's some challenges in that, but the benefits far outweigh any challenges of living in the now.
Yeah, and just because there's challenges, just shouldn't mean that you put it off.
Exactly.
Because what is not a challenge? Your work is challenging.
Yeah.
Your taking a driver's license is challenging.
Yeah.
Raising children is challenging. I mean, what's not challenging?
Talk about raising children. My goodness. Our daughter is 15 years old and she's an angel. There's no issues with her. But I had this horrible dream last night that she had started smoking, and she and I were physically fighting about that.
Oh, yeah. You shouldn't fight her if she starts smoking.
I know. What's up with that? What kind of dream is that, man?
Well, maybe that's something in you. Maybe that's some kind of
There must be some element of my conscience that led me to that dream. I believe you dream about what you sincerely think and feel. You may not be aware of it, but it's there and it comes out in dreams.
I can suspect that you being an athlete, you're in an environment a lot of the time that loathes cigarette smoking, where this is just frowned upon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you get that, even though you're not consciously thinking about that, you get that energy every time you're in this milieu, and every time you're talking with people, that the underlying thing that no one even needs to talk about is that we loathe cigarettes, and people who smoke are stupid or whatever, you know? And it's not that simple.
It's when she woke up this morning, I almost want to go right up to her, give her a hug and say, I won't fight you if you want to smoke. Oh, crazy dream that just came out of nowhere. And it's like, I don't know. Dreams are a signal of what we...
An internal process.
Yeah, it's something that obviously needs to be handled. Otherwise, it wouldn't come up in our subconscious.
So I read two things from that dream. It's one, that you love your daughter and you want her well-being. And two, you hate cigarettes.
I do. I will never put a stamp on someone's forehead and call them a loser or less than moral if they smoke. But I do think cigarette smoking is absolutely disgusting. I have,
again, intentions is everything. And there are tobacco plants that are being grown for commercial profit.
Yes.
They're being sprayed with chemicals.
Yes.
It's like the meat industry. It's just like living things that just pass through on this, factory and just becomes a product. There's no heart, there's no empathy, there's no nothing. And even for plants, we have empathy. And everyone who has greenhouse plants know that you have to give them love and water, and or else they'll die.
Yeah.
And so with every living thing, it's like that. So you have to give it love and attention. So I've smoked tobacco, which have been grown by shaman from South America, with an intention that it's a sacrament for a ceremony or for healing. The intention is love. It's
and isn't
not
that closer to
get you addicted?
Exactly. Isn't that closer to the earth then? It's a different experience, even down to I'll call it the mechanics of it. The way it smells, the way it looks is different from what people see in these packages of cancer sticks. It's a big difference.
Yeah, because then it's just, it's made into a product made to get you addicted, so you'll continue spending that money.
Yes.
And there's no thought about the health consequences.
No, well, it's a process of manipulation. Whereas if you're in some sort of, if you're in some native culture, whether it's in the United States, South America, something like that, and they're using tobacco, it's for a different purpose and it's going to have a different effect.
Yeah. But this is not only tobacco. This is everything in our society.
Sure.
It's like that.
Sure.
It's just that cigarettes are so easy to attack because they're so obviously idiotic, but the systems we live in, like through commercials, like indoctrinations, you need this toothpaste, you need this thing, you need to go there, you need to have to do that, and if you're not conscious about it, you become a sheep or a robot. And the way to get out of the sheep robot kind of trap is just to become conscious of it. And that's what it means to kind of get plugged out of the matrix. Like for the movie The Matrix, and people are using this analogy that you want to get plugged out of the matrix, and that's just becoming conscious of why am I doing all these things I'm doing.
Well, so along those lines, then, along the lines of being caught up in the matrix, of listening to this commercial propaganda about different issues of nature. Issues of nature that are then being made into issues of commerce. What do you think about the current situation with the coronavirus? What are your thoughts on how people are reacting to it? What are your thoughts on how government instances are portraying everything about COVID?
Well, I think
talk to me about that. What do you think?
I think that it's obvious that nobody knows nothing. Or very little.
I saw yesterday they're running around in Wuhan from the World Health Organization trying to find the origin of it in Wuhan, and they're just coming up empty.
They don't even know the origin. So there's so many questions. But then we have this democracy where we have chosen people to lead for us. Yeah. We pay taxes and we vote people in that we want to trust. And we vote them in and say, okay, you take care of that for me so I can go to work and be a family guy and whatnot. That's what we do. And these people have never been in this situation before. But they're part of a system where they can go, oh, I was wrong there. Oh, he was wrong. And then the other political party that wants thrown out of their government, they're going to use that statement for what it's worth. Yeah. Because it's a shit show. Yeah. Because everything comes from a polarized idea that it's me against you. Yeah. That's kind of
I have to be right and you have to be wrong.
Yeah. That's kind of the bottom kind of ground that we build everything on. Yeah. Yeah. So whatever we try to do, it will always end up in polarization. So we can't fix the system. Like I said last time, we have to tear it down and build a new system. And that's overwhelming for most people. Yeah. So I even talked to a friend of mine who's a politician for the Høyre, the Conservatives. Yeah. And he said, he totally agreed with me. But he asked me, but what can we do? Well, you're sailing the ship just over the edge, I'm saying. And he said, yeah, I know, but I can't see any other solutions. So and I feel like I have to do something. So that's what I'm doing. And that dawned on me that, okay, even knowingly, because he can't see any other hope, he'll go, okay, I'll just drive this car till it crashes. That's kind of a sentiment that he's become comfortable with and just...
Isn't that just a cop-out? Isn't that just an easy way to not have to think?
I think it's a cop-out. But then
Isn't
again...
that an easy way to not have to be creative? We're talking about creativity.
No, I'm trying not to blame people. I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt and that people always are doing their best with the cognitive abilities that they have. So when people make horrendous decisions, I try to stay in the frame of mind that it's not because they're evil, it's because they're very confused.
Yeah. Even in all of this craziness, and thank God Trump is gone, but even in the midst of all of his craziness, I never hated him. You always hear this thing that, I hate Trump. I never hated him. For the most, I felt sorry for him because I felt that he is... something is twisted. Something has confused him. Something has led him astray.
Did you see that picture of him that was taken the same day he lost, when he kind of dawned, where he had obviously been crying?
Yes.
And he looked like a little boy.
Thank you.
It was looking in the camera.
I pointed that out to my wife. Yes. He looked like a different man.
He looked like a little boy that didn't get the candy.
It looked like he woke up and someone spanked him and told him, you are not the most important person in this house.
Exactly.
That is exactly what he looked like.
And living in a world where that will provoke people pointing and laughing is something I want to go away from, because we'll never get out of the us against them, me, you kind of polarization by thinking like that. So even someone as crude and who's done so many really, really not likable things as that man. When you look into those eyes and you remember that he was once a toddler, he was once a little boy who obviously, according to his aunt, was just, tortured by his dad every day, told that you were worthless, you're not your brother, you should have been better. Yeah. This is the environment he's been growing up in. And now we're getting into interesting territory here, John Allen, because what it boils down to is how we raise our kids. Yeah. And because we're programmed through childhood, and unprogramming that program is
very hard to do.
Extremely difficult.
I am one who believes that if you want to change the future, then you need to focus on how you're raising your kids.
That's
you want to change the path of society, you got to focus on how you're raising your children.
That's what you got to do, and everything else is just
everything else is just noise, isn't it?
Even politics,
isn't it? Yeah.
I have a friend. Obviously I used to be a politician, so I have friends who
you used to be a politician. I didn't know that.
Yeah, for the Green Party.
I didn't know that. How long ago was this?
I got a couple of years ago.
Recent.
Yeah. So, but,
I didn't know that. Interesting.
But people in politics tend to say, "Oh, but everything is politics." And then
That's not true.
And then I counter and say nothing is politics. And then if they have a little philosophical strain in them, they'll start laughing because they understand that that's true. It's all a matter of how you look out into it.
Isn't it just the ebb and flow of consciousness and where you choose to focus it?
That's all there is.
That has nothing to do with politics.
It's nothing to do with politics. It's just a tool, and it's a tool that is starting to look worn out. The way the politics are being done because of the polarization that it creates.
Well, what kind of leadership structure should we have optimally then? Is there an answer for that?
That's no, there's not an answer for that. But there are places to start that discussion that we have.
Yeah, because within the political system that we do have, let's accept that we have the system that we have. That does not cancel us from being able to influence it or influence ourselves in ways that bring about changes to this now, to this current political system that we do have.
No, so
we can change it by our own attitude.
We have to change this by our own attitude, and not only attitude, but by getting to understand that we are not our identity. The identity that we have is not the real me.
Explain that. That's deep.
Yeah. So we got to get deep to solve this. And so I'm talking about me. Mm-hmm. I'm not a guitar player.
No.
No, I'm not a musician.
No.
I'm not a father. I'm not a husband. I'm not any of those things essentially. Essentially, I'm just consciousness experiencing this planet through this body. Now, if I start there, it's a blank slate. It's a completely blank slate. No ideas that I should be doing this or I should be doing that. It's expected of me that I should. None of that's there.
Right.
It's just a blank slate.
Right.
I'm manifestation of consciousness, experiencing a life. Let's start there. Okay, so how long can you stay in that frame of mind without, there's a guitar. Maybe I'll start playing a guitar. Oh, that was effective. People start noticing me. Well, I'm still just consciousness experiencing this life. If I want to, I can put a lot of identity markers on my position as a guitar player. And most of us have done it, and most of us do it, because all of a sudden you get the girls and the drugs and the deals and the money and everything comes in. And it takes a really strong heart and a strong back to make the right choices in those situations.
Right.
And we get challenged every day to get off our path. By path, I mean the knowing that I am just consciousness experiencing life through this body.
Yeah.
So the second I start getting ideas about who I am, I'm drifting away from the moment. I'm drifting away from that essential light.
Because if you start thinking who you are, then you're going to expect things of yourself.
Exactly.
Things that won't necessarily make your vision clearer or your path straighter.
Exactly. So like the flowers you have in your home here, they're not expecting anything of themselves.
Right. They're just there.
They're just there.
Living.
And if they get sunlight and water, they'll thrive.
Yeah.
And sunlight and water is part of the ecosystem that they are created in and that they kind of arose in. So even that's just part of a system that's a no-brainer. It just happens.
Yeah.
So no one has to, the rain doesn't say, well, I guess I'll rain now. It just rains.
But the difference between the rain and plants and us is that we are thinking beings.
Well,
is that thinking process supposed to be suppressed? Because expectation, ambition, things like that, those are in a way the curse of being sentient. The plant over there isn't sentient.
I'm not so sure about that.
That's true. You know what? Because there have been studies that have proven that they respond to certain tones in voice.
And they sing and they communicate with each other.
Yes,
and I think that we've only scratched the surface.
Yeah, so let me take that comment away, because there is proof that, or at least there's a thought that they are possibly sentient.
Possibilities.
Yes. So let me take that statement away. But the question is sentience, is consciousness then a burden? Because it is our consciousness that leads us to wanting things, to expecting things, and that pulls us off of our true path, doesn't it?
Not quite. It's not our consciousness. It's what we like to call our ego. And the ego has a negative connotation to it. But the ego is an inevitable part of the human experience and the human being a human. And without the ego, we wouldn't have survived as a species.
Yes.
Because it's the ego that made us protect our land, protect our family from cave bears and whatnot, and going that, no, I can't give you my crop because then I won't have enough for my family. Yeah. So I'm sorry for that you don't have any food, but I need this for my family or my wife and children will starve. Because no one is, if I give away, okay, I'll let my family die so you can live. It's not a very sensible way of thinking, because I can trust my own head and my own dealing with my resources when it's me and my family, and okay, we'll do this as a team.
Yeah.
But if I just give away that to someone I don't know, and I don't know how they are gonna kind of handle that, or so everything points, but like when you're on an airplane, you put the oxygen mask on yourself even before you put it on your child. Yeah. It's because if you pass out, you won't be able to help your child anyway.
Right.
So you need to make sure that you're healthy. And if we look further down that line and see what that means, you're coming to places that are, for instance, self-love. Like, how much self-love are you able to give yourself?
Yeah.
Because it's all starts.
There's a fine line. There's a balancing act when it comes to self-love.
What do you mean? Well,
it can go over into arrogance.
Oh, but then it's not self-love.
Isn't arrogance just expansive self-love? Isn't it self-love in overdrive? Isn't that arrogance?
No, arrogance is when your ego starts telling you that you're better than someone else.
Okay, I see.
But if you, through meditation, you can learn to recognize what's the ego and what's not. And you do it with techniques of observation. So you go, who is thinking this thought? Because you're able to observe the thought. So that means one thing for sure, you can't be that thought because you're observing it.
Exactly.
Like you can't touch your right forefinger with your right forefinger.
Right.
So that means that forefinger is my finger. So, but a thought that just comes in, I think we talked about this the last time, it'll just go again if you don't connect your emotions to it.
Yeah.
So the reason that we go and think is that we connect emotions to the thoughts.
Right.
But if we learn how not to do that, the thoughts will just disappear. And if that thought was me, how can it disappear again?
Right.
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, negative thought is such a burden that we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
And when I say we, I mean humankind. The tendency to weigh oneself down with negative thought. I mean, it. We're
primed to do it.
We are.
Yeah, we're primed to do it, especially the way that religion has taught us that we are sinners, which it's kind of in the bottom of this. So, whipping yourself and just going on that, today I didn't make this, I did this wrong. Instead of the cliche, which is focusing on everything you did right.
Every day, everyone does something right. I'll take it even further. People do a lot of things right every single day.
Most things they do right.
Yeah, exactly. But the tendency for a lot of people is to focus on those negative things.
Just like in the media now. So you focus on that very strange crew that took over the Capitol or tried to take over the Capitol. I don't think they are most people.
Far from it.
I think that because the media writes about it and because it's such an extraordinary happening, we get the feeling that this is a huge problem and this is something. But I think it's not. I think that most people are good people who just want to get on with their lives.
Because of my podcast, a lot of people ask me, and I actually make conscious effort to not let my podcast fall into the category of being a political podcast. Yeah. But having said that, politics do get discussed on my podcast because it's about having conversations with people, and a lot of people are very occupied with politics. But one thing that I make very clear is that, like you said, these people who did what they did at the Capitol building is such a small percentage of. I'm seeing here in Norway. This is where I live, so all of these references are Norwegian references, where Norwegians will come to me and they'll say, "John, aren't you worried? Your country is falling apart." And my answer is it really? When you look at those people who fall into the QAnon conspiracy theories, the people who stormed the Capitol building, they are if you divide the country up into Democrats and Republicans are roughly 36% of the populace, and then of the Republican Party, 65% of them distance themselves from the QAnon conspirators. So then that should tell you mathematically that those people who engaged in the insurrection are such a small micro percentage
Tiny.
of American society. So then I put the question back to them, knowing all of this, are you going to say the United States is falling apart? No, it's not. That's sensationalism. That's media hype. That's political pundits making their living by having that discussion.
Now,
it's a matter of focus, I believe.
Yeah, and semantics. So
and semantics.
Yeah, so you can say that everything is changing all the time, and sometimes things are changing more than other times.
Yes. Yeah.
And now we're at a time where things are changing really big, and when we have big changes, we have fear, and when we have fear, we have unwise reactions to that fear. You know.
Have you ever feared change?
Yes, when I was a child, I suspect I had a fear of change, but the way I grew up, I remember when my grandma died, and especially when my parents divorced, you know, like all these fundamentally deep examples of change in my life, you know, when your parents split and you're
that's
all of
a
a sudden
serious uprooting.
It's a serious uprooting, and all of a sudden you don't see your dad for 22 years and all that, which happened to me. And then you can deal with that in several ways. But the best way to deal with it is just to accept it and to see how am I reacting to that, and to give yourself a lot of love and compassion for the sadness that you get. So that's why it's a common misconception, like you said, that won't you get arrogant if you give yourself too much self-love? No. If you always remember that you are in service, you're a creative being, and that creativity is in service of the rest of the world. So what makes you feel good is basically just a service to others.
Yeah.
So so if you don't lose that focus, that you are in service, you will never get arrogant, but you will say, wow, I needed this bath.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I bought this toothpaste because it's with aloe vera and it's really, really nice on my gums. Instead of thinking, oh, I'll buy this cheap first price toothpaste because I can't use money on that.
Right.
You know, that's what I'm talking about. Just going, no, I'm going to buy this coffee brand because I really enjoy coffee, and I want every cup to be like an experience. Yeah. So I can be like you know, in Twin Peaks, where I can go, damn good coffee, you know, every time, you know. Is that too much to ask of a life in a country like Norway? I don't think so.
No.
But the thing is that most people lose their heads because they see, oh, I'm making all this money. So it's not about the coffee cup anymore. It's about, oh, I need to get this car, or I need to get this house, or I need to get whatever. Is not something that you actually need. It's just something that signals that I've been successful.
Right.
And you shouldn't have to be wanting to signal your success, because your success is who you have become as a human. And that will signal again, like a plant will grow by itself.
Yeah. That
signal will shine by itself if you just let it.
I'm a believer in just living my life, and that whole concept of being in service. I truly believe when I am able to reach out and help someone in any way, of course it helps them, but I believe it helps me as well. There's this thing.
First and foremost, it helps you.
Yeah.
It starts with what it does with you.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to become aware of. So everyone could understand that.
Oh, we'd have a different world.
We'll have a totally different world.
We would have a different world. Yeah. We wouldn't have these arguments that we're having these days. You know, it's so obvious that, I mean, you speak so clearly, so fluently on your philosophies of life. And it's obvious that it's quite sincere. I hear it in your tone of voice. I hear it in the words themselves. I see it on you. I hear it in your music. You weren't born that way. Where did well, I take that back. You probably were. I think babies are born that way.
I think things get in the way.
But things get in the way of that, and we get polluted with negativity and anxiety and things like that. Was there a turning point in your life when you started on the current path that you're on? Because you are on a path of peace. You're on a path of service, kindness, warmth. When did that start?
Well, it started many times, but it started
stop and start.
Yeah, stop and start like a trillion times. But but I had a mystical experience back in the late 90s, so I wanted to get a explanation on that mystical experience, and that's basically when it started. But all the pain that I've gone through was needed for me to get out of my own head. So through the last 10 years, I've been in a really good place now the past 2 years, but the last 10 years, I've had some experiences like with divorce and breakups and really serious things that forced me to break free of my pain body, because I was caught up in my pain body, and I didn't know how to get out of it. But then I realized
it's possible to get used to pain and suffering and discomfort.
Well, not only get used to it, but that
thrive
you use that as your identity for living.
It's your fuel for life.
I am the bitter, guy who never made it. Yeah. That's my identity. Yeah. So every day I woke up, it's another day for the bitter guy who didn't make it. You know, if that's your frame of mind every day, that's how your life's going to be.
Yeah.
But if your frame of mind every day is that I am loving awareness. Wow. And then you go and start your day. It's going to be a different day, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Imagine, seriously, for anybody who's listening, imagine waking up and that is your first thought.
Yeah. I am loving awareness.
And then put the wow on it at the end. Wow. Wow. Imagine waking up and that is your first thought for the day.
Yeah. So you can prime yourself to have that as your first thought.
I had a football coach in college who told me that the first thought I should have, because everything, the studies and the whole college experience, that kind of will take care of itself. But if you want to excel as a football player, the first thought you should have, John, when you wake up is that you are going to do what it takes training-wise to better yourself. Today, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get faster. I'm going to get better conditioning. And if you put that thought in your head as soon as you wake up, and then make sure you repeat that throughout the day, it will come to be.
It will.
And that was a rather interesting application of that way of thinking, because he applied it only in the sense of football, playing American football.
But actually, it's a universal. It's a universal law.
It's something that you can apply to your life in general. Yeah,
and should apply to your life, because it's a law of nature, and it's starting to seep into the collective consciousness that it actually is. And I'm sure that in 50 years from now, it's going to be taught in schools. No doubt about it.
I was thinking about that. Why isn't these kinds of these ways of thinking, these methods of meditation and things like that, do you feel that there's a place for that in school today? And the answer is yes. You say in the future, you think it might actually be taught in school.
It has to be for us to survive.
You would think, yeah?
Yeah.
Based on where we are today and what's happening today.
Yeah, because all the old systems are falling apart now. So a lot of, you can see a lot of new ways of schooling that are popping up. You've seen that in the last 50 years, like the Montessori schools and Steiner schools and all that. But also even at Akademia in Drammen, which got this prize now for being the best school in Norway.
What's it called?
Akademia.
Okay, yeah.
Which is a college. And they are kind of implementing some of the Montessori ways of thinking, which gives you freedom. So basically...
Is that a videregående school?
Yeah.
I've never heard. Why haven't I heard of this?
Because it's private.
Right here in Drammen.
It's private, basically.
Huh. So I don't know. Yeah, private schools, I guess, have a tendency to be kind of under the surface.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Wow, okay.
So, yeah. So I lost my train of thought.
So did I. Oh, man. Here's what we were talking about is what happened, and you answered it. I asked what happened to get you on the current path that you're on. And then you mentioned that it was an off and on type of thing. You had to restart several times. Yeah, so you are, can I then make the assumption that you are used to failure?
Yeah.
And that can be funny. But there's a humor under that. But isn't failure an opportunity for gaining knowledge and growth?
Exactly. When you then when you get out of your pain body and self-pity, because if you wallow in that mire too long, you're gonna just hate yourself really, really bad.
Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
Recently.
Really?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, then you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to get out of that place, right?
Yeah, and I've climbed out of there since then. But I think about this all the time. I said to Snoopy yesterday, I said, Espen, he's got it together, at least from the way I see it. Espen looks like the kind of guy who doesn't quite know, but he has a pretty good idea of what's going to happen when he dies, and he can smile having that knowledge. And I think I'm right.
Yeah.
And it is what a position to be in. This position of knowing yourself, of knowing your potential, or at least seeking your potential, of not wallowing in self-pity. You are the embodiment of all of those concepts.
Keep in mind that I have wallowed in self-pity quite a lot.
But again, isn't life a series of failures and realizations?
Yeah.
And failing to be the optimal you is okay. Because if you failed at it, that means that you've learned something from it. And then if you have the wisdom that we're all born with, you will then do something with that new knowledge.
Like I can ask your listeners, put up a hand, everyone who hasn't failed in their life.
Yeah.
Okay, no one can put up their hand. So, yeah. So
the question becomes, what do you do with that failure?
How do you deal with the failure?
Exactly.
That's everything. And if you have put a lot of identity up to making this, getting that job, getting that record deal, doing all these things, if you cash that in before it happens, which we have a tendency to do because we so much want to be successful.
Yeah. Be a wonderful failure.
You make everything, all the misery in the world possible for you.
Yeah.
Because when you don't get it, and you won't get it, I assure you, you will not get that job. You will not get that record deal. 100%. You will not. So when you then do not get that record deal or that job, you will get disappointed. Yeah. But whereas if you go into this, that I'm just loving awareness and I'm just creativity experiencing itself through this body on this planet. If you get back to that state of being, you're just, whoa, who are you? Whoa, I'm a record executive. Wow. Okay. And why do you want to talk to me?
Yeah.
Well, I was considering releasing your music. Okay. So what's in it for you?
Good question for that. Imagine, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, see what I did there? That I have control over the situation.
Yes.
I've never done that when I've been in that real situation. I've done the exact opposite. Yeah. We'll want to give you a record deal. Oh, really? Thank you. I'm so humbled by that. Where can I sign?
Yeah.
Oh, what's this tiny little writing in the bottom? Oh, don't worry about that. Okay, I'll just write here then. Okay. Did I just sign my life earnings to you now? Yes, you did. But
Yes, you did.
You'll get your 15 minutes of fame in return, you know? I've been there so many times I can't count. But then all of a sudden, there's an alarm that goes off and you go, whoa. Is it really true that I can't control these loops that I'm in?
Yeah.
I have to get to the bottom. Because if that's so, if this is out of my control, I might as well just go and jump in the ocean, because this is it's silly. If this is the amount of control that I have of my life, and then I started to work on meditation and esoteric principles and work with plant medicine and ceremonies and stuff like that.
See, I think it's true that opportunity does come to you. You are possible to draw opportunity to you, maybe not in a physical sense, but that your awareness, your mental state of being opens up a vision to where you can see opportunity.
Yeah, because you see the flow of energy.
Yes.
Because everything is energy. Even scientists agree on that. And you can become aware of the flow of that energy.
Yeah.
And when that becomes an awareness in you, it's hard. That's kind of a tipping point.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe that's, when you can say you can get an insight or become enlightened or all these words.
That life-changing moment.
That you understand that, wow, I can just sit here now, and not engage.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean to be passive.
No.
That just means that I'm not engaging, because engaging in this will cause me pain.
Yeah.
So I'm not engaging. Oh, don't you care about the Me Too movement? Don't you care about Black Lives Matter? Of course. But going in that room with all those screaming people.
That's not the way to... No.
It's not my way of working for world peace.
No.
So I choose not to do that. And especially today, it's really hard to keep that balance, because people are demanding so much of you. Expecting. We're putting up these frames on our Facebook profiles that kind of is almost a passive-aggressive statement that goes that I'm going to do this, and if you don't put up I'm going to take the vaccine, and if you're not putting up that, are you an anti-vaxxer? Are you a tinfoil crazy QAnon, flat earther? No, there's a lot of points between these two extremes,
Yeah. People forget that. Polarized. We talked about everything being polarized.
Yeah, because now it's so polarized, nuances are out the door. There are no nuances, which is why I quit politics, which is why I do not comment on Facebook on anything except for presenting my philosophy and music. That's all I do, and give people love and saying happy birthday to them.
You have a great social media presence, because you're right. It is just those warm, positive, thoughtful things that you put out there. I love it. It's a relief.
Well, be in the world what you want to see in the world, and if there's a lot of hate, well, at least I'm not putting the hate out there.
Right.
So I'm doing my part.
Sure.
So if everyone could think like that, I'm not going to write this comment now.
It really is that simple.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Nobody really cares even. And your opinion about this and that,
nobody cares.
It means nothing.
I think when people, and speaking for myself, if I ever put any kind of opinion out there, it's just to make myself feel better.
Yeah, it's your ego.
People are just trying to make themselves feel better.
It's your ego.
Yeah.
You're getting fueled.
And nobody really cares, really. The person posting it is the one who cares the most. Yeah. And then it just gets filtered down to less and less caring after that. It's so really the way
insignificant. You can go up in our beautiful woods that surround our town, which I do as much as I can. And the second you step into the forest, you understand that, you see the little fox passing by, you hear the birds, you see this occasional little snake going by, and I even saw a badger, and I've seen wolverine tracks, and all of a sudden you realize, this is reality. Where there are no concepts. It's just an organism just
Just being. Yeah.
And we don't have to think that we have to superimpose anything into this already perfect harmony, because we only ruin it. And that's what we're doing now.
I wonder what kind of changes could be made concerning the mental health of people in this city if everyone got a prescription, or as they call it in Norway, a recept from their doctor that says that they have to go and walk up in the mountains up above this town twice a week, just twice a week, a half hour each time. Well, how much healing that would be for people.
It's happening in the way it should be happening. It's becoming fashion.
It is.
Yeah. And that's not a coincidence. It's a deep longing inside the human condition that has had enough.
Yeah.
We're tired. And we're tired of the media spreading fear. We've handled it up until the corona crisis, but now we have the corona crisis addition to that, where we can't be social and we become, our mental health is challenged by that. And then we can see that we don't have any tolerance to accept all the fear mongering. We don't have any strength left to deal with the fear mongering.
Well, I tell people a cure for that, free medicine. Get in your car, you drive 5 minutes up onto the mountainside here. You can park your car, all kinds of places, park your car, and then just start walking.
Yeah.
And do that for just a half hour, a couple times a week, and see what it does for your life. See what it does for your health. Yeah. See what it does for your way of thinking. See what it does for your entire life. And it's medicine. It's free medicine.
And some people can't leave their troubles behind, so then you got to do it again and again and make conscious how you are the one holding on to your troubles.
Yeah.
Because there's no one.
The troubles aren't holding on to you.
No.
It's the other way around.
Yeah, it's the other way around, and no one's forcing you to hold on to them. But that's an illness in society, that we think we have to feel bad.
Yeah, I have to deal with this. I have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's comes from being a sinner, and it has a lot to do with the Christian dogmas that we are born to sin, which I believe is not right.
I just don't believe in that either.
So it's just a way to control people. So
I'm a Christian, and I don't believe that.
Yeah, we talked
about that. Yeah.
I was thinking about. You know that no one in the Bible had a Bible, right?
Right. Yeah. Think about that.
No one in the Bible had a Bible. What does that mean? Right? What lies in there, you know? So everything is just fingers pointing in a direction, but they're not the direction. They're not the focal point.
Right.
Which is inside us. Like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is inside you. And even that, it's even in the Bible, in Luke. And he says it so clear. And even because of that statement, still Christianity believes that heaven is somewhere outside of you, and that hell is an existing place that's also outside of you. Whereas heaven and hell is inside you. And you don't reach heaven when you die. Or hell when you die. You reach heaven or hell in life.
Yep.
It's how you live.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus was saying. And heaven is inside you. And heaven is not identifying with external things.
It's internal. It's a state of being.
Like I said, you are loving awareness. That's all you are. You are creativity in a vessel experiencing life on a planet. Back to that focus. Every time, just realign yourself to that focus, and all the things that you worry about loses meaning.
Yeah.
Everything loses meaning.
Yeah. Why don't I have these conversations with you daily? It's so easy to pick up the phone and talk.
Well, maybe not daily, but
it'd get kind of tiring every day.
Every day would be. I would suggest you. I'd give you some books to read.
Thanks.
But the thing is, like with my mom, she's like so interested. She's 83 now, so she's old, right? She was born in a different time. And I said that because she's listening to what I say. And then she's like, wow, yeah, I understand that. I understand what you're saying. And then when the talk is over, I can see her just snapping back to her old ways. Because you have to integrate, or no, what's that word?
You have to live it. You can't just hear it.
You have to
integrate
it into your life.
Yeah.
So just studying something is just half the job.
Right. You have to implement it. You have to put it into practice.
You have to put it into practice. And the human body is fairly flexible, but we have to understand that we have to create new neural patterns in our brain.
Yeah.
And we are doing that actively. It's something we have to do. And that's difficult. It's like I compare it to digging a ditch and filling up an old ditch at the same time. That's how difficult it is to create new neural patterns. But it's possible. And it's what we do. And if we didn't have challenges in this life, it would be meaningless. Yeah. We're here to be challenged. And I've always
said challenge means growth. When I'm faced with a challenge, when I'm faced with any kind of an obstacle, I want to come out of it on the other side stronger, smarter, more durable, whatever. I want something to happen because of that challenge.
But you need to get to that point and realize that that's how it works. And before you get to that point, you are investing in your pain body, and you're just getting, hurt and miserable. Yeah. Until you go, I can't be miserable anymore.
Yeah.
How do I stop being miserable?
Yeah.
And then you seek the answers. And then you have to be open. Oh, yeah, but I can't start believing that because that contradicts with, something from the place which causes mystery. I think I'll maybe do it.
I see a lot of people in that political world who are living that right there. They are faced with the truth, and they within themselves acknowledge that truth, but they can't change because they've made everyone believe that they are this person, that person with these thoughts.
Another example for why that system is flawed, and we need a new one.
Yeah. Wow. Do away with politics. I think the political system we have, it's not sustainable. I think everybody knows it. You mentioned the politician who says that they know that this isn't working. It's going to take time, but I think things are going to change, and it's going to change for the better.
It's changing fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, it's escalating so quickly. I think by 2025...
it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a very different world, 2025, than we experience today. I think the change is just escalating. It's going quicker and quicker and quicker. Yeah. And what is changing? Well, humanity is waking up to how to disconnect from the matrix. So everything we see is evolutionary principle in action.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do anything, John. We can sit here and talk about it on your pod. But what to do about all these horrible things happening in the world? And I say, be loving awareness. It's all you can do. Yeah. It's all you should do.
Yeah.
And if everyone knew that, all the bullshit would end.
See, and that's why I like talking with you like this, not only for myself, but for anybody who's listening. When they hear you say these kind of things, if we just get one person to have that, oh yeah, Espen Jørgensen, he's right. I'm going to try that. If we can just get one person at a time to start turning to this way of thinking.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think we're going to have to rephrase it because I can't get anyone to change. The only person you can get to change, you put it out there, but you have to change.
Sure.
So, right? Yeah. I can change you.
Totally agreed.
You have to change. You have to understand. My words or someone's words has to resonate with you.
Sure.
And connect with the truth that we all carry inside.
But I think your words do resonate with people. That's my whole thing, is I think that people listening to this, if there's only one person who feels the resonation in the things that we're talking about right here.
That's the way it works.
It's the wave effect.
That's the way it works. Like when it comes to my music, songs I've written, and I get this one email, this song changed my life, thank you for writing it. And that happened to me, actually.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
I wrote a song that I haven't recorded myself, but I wrote it for someone else. And I got this letter that it had saved a person's life, at least in her words. And I have to believe those words.
Yeah, those things do happen in music.
And
Music
John,
really touches people.
John, that's a lifetime.
Yeah,
Of success right there.
Yep.
If I died the next day, I would have accomplished my work on this planet.
Just from that one instance,
Changing the life of one fellow human being.
I hear you.
If everyone can do that during their lifetime, it's all that's needed. You know? And that happens when you're in service. And back then I wasn't conscious of being in service. Now I am. And now I see it as I'm grateful for the opportunity to be in service, instead of being grateful for getting something that'll bring me success or fame or money.
That's so tiring. If you're in that mindset, if that's what you want out of life, I just picture that being so tiring.
It's extremely tiring.
It's exhausting, and you are likely to not succeed. So you're just going to wear yourself down for nothing.
Most don't succeed. Some, of course, do.
Some do.
And we use them examples
But at what cost?
that it works.
But what cost?
Yeah, we'll see now Hollywood breaking together, falling apart, and all the people coming out with their stories. And
everybody's moving out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
I've been following along with
Really?
it. People are leaving in droves, and most of them are going to places like Arizona and Texas. It's very interesting.
Interesting.
There's talk of a new Hollywood arising in Austin, Texas.
Wow, Austin's a cool city.
I've never been. I've driven through there when I was a truck driver, but I never stopped. But everyone says it is the least Texas place in all of Texas.
That's true. It's got a very European vibe, actually. So it's
liberal,
strange.
laid back, quiet, and loving.
And so much good music has come from there. So yeah, no, that, like you say yourself, there's a change happening. All the old systems, they shouldn't be revised. They should be left behind, and new systems are to be implemented. And every time this has happened before in the world, it has been a travesty. Yeah. So we have the chance now, because of the globalization, because everyone is in contact with everyone, and we have reached a level of collective consciousness that makes it possible for us to do this for the first time in the history of the universe. Mm-hmm. So for the first time, we can transcend without there being a travesty.
Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah. Without tribes getting into tribalism and tribes killing people, and like the fall of the Roman Empire, like fall of all the empires, they end. And everything ends in this system, and it gets reborn.
Yeah.
So that the fact that we're losing our old systems, it's not sad. It's
not a bad thing at all.
We make it sad.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if we just...
Fear of change. We talked about that a while ago. Yeah.
So if we just remember that we are just loving awareness and creativity, experiencing life through a vessel on a planet.
Living awareness and creativity. That is you, Espen Jørgensen.
Thanks, John.
I love these talks with you, man. This is only your second time on the podcast, but we've had a couple of telephone conversations, and I tell you, I am constant. You say things that resonate, and I'm not talking about it's something that'll have me thinking for the next hour or two, or even for the rest of the day. I'm talking about you say things that have me thinking for days, weeks, and I love it. Several times, I don't go back and listen to my own podcast episodes. I don't do that. I think it's weird, but I go back and listen to that conversation that we had. Wow. I've done that several times. There's so much in there. Thank you. You talk about being in service. You have done such a great service for me, and hopefully for people who are listening. Is that Snoopy that just came out?
It sure is.
Yeah. that's my signal that I have to wind this up. But let me finish by saying this. You've talked about being in service. You have done me a great service in that you have, I'm a deep thinking man already, but I've had to get a pickaxe and a shovel and dig even deeper to be even more of a deep thinker because of these conversations with you. And I thank you for that.
Thank you for those kind words.
You are a true, loving brother. And I'm a better person for knowing you.
Well, man, I love you, man. And
thank you.
I'm so happy that you called me and got me back here. And we'll do it again. We'll do it again.
Maybe next time it'll be summertime. We'll sit out on the porch again and see if we can beat our 4-hour record.
Yeah, see if we can do that. And maybe get Carolina to come. Maybe
I would love to have both of you here. Absolutely. And if I want to talk about people who have influenced me, I actually wrote a blog entry, like 1,500 words, on my experience with Carolina, because she really moved me. She really motivated me, and it started from the minute I opened the door and I saw her. That woman radiates service, kindness, goodness, wisdom. I'm telling you, I felt that from the minute I opened the door when she came here. So there's just, I'm also a better person for having met her and spoken with her.
She's amazing.
She is. She is.
Being with her is healing. You just feel better after you've been with her.
I can imagine.
And
well, you guys are a good fit.
We are.
I haven't seen you guys together, but knowing that you two are together, it fits.
My son said the other day, or we were together, and he looked up from his computer and he looked at us and he said, "You guys are funny together." And I'm like, yeah, because it's a really, really good vibe, and we're so alike, and we have come to realize the same universal truths, so we can focus our energy on what's true. And as you know, we know now that that's being in service to your fellow man. There is, and I have this with Snoopy. There's no BS between us. No,
it's everything that a relationship should be. And I can see that you, again, without even seeing the two of you together, just knowing what I know about you, knowing about how I experienced her when I spoke with her, you guys are a perfect mesh.
Well, it feels like that, you know, and just focus on nonviolent communication. Every time it happens that you feel your grounding is you're losing your grounding, or that you become hurt or anything, you take it in real time. You say, what you just said made me feel like this. You don't say, whoa, you just did this. Or
there's a way of formulating it that will not lead to the other person closing off.
Exactly.
It will lead to an openness in the discussion.
So you say that those words made me feel like this.
Yeah.
And then she can reply, so when I said this, you felt that. She's steel manning me, as opposed to straw manning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So she's
big difference.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
It's the exact opposite.
Yeah, so she's steel manning me, getting her head around that she had gotten my what I said correctly.
Yeah.
And then I can confirm to that and say, yes, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And then she can say, I can see why that happened, why that made you feel that way. I'm sorry for doing that. Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
And then we're back on track on cooperation. Whereas before I knew this, had these techniques, that would be the end of it. That would be the end of that day. Yeah. That would be, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going for a walk.
And then silent treatment for a day or two.
Something like that, you know, and then you just drift back and you never solve this thing, which will come back into
it'll be a recurring issue
again and again and again and again, and you want to get out of it. You don't want to live your life like that. You want to have peace and quiet and love.
Peace, quiet, and love, and service.
Yeah.
Espen Jørgensen, thanks so much for coming in. As always,
thanks for having me,
I'm a better
John.
man. As always, I hope my listeners are better for it. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you and goodbye.